Many of us are unaware of the fight for Aboriginal land rights. We are also unaware about the fight for civil rights as well. Many of you are probably unaware that Indigenous people and non Indigenous people work together to fight for justice for Aboriginal land and people. While the story of Aboriginal people is unknown around our region, in Australia it is very well known. A painting done by Anthony Martin Fernando, who is an Aboriginal man from Sydney, was disgusted by a trial, so he left to write and talk about the status of Aboriginals in Australia. In the in 1920, Fernando stood at Australia House in London, where wearing a coat that was covered in toy skeletons. His message was that this is what the Australian government has done to his people. Says J. Arthur, the curator of the Fernando exhibit. He was not well received and was killed. After the incident, an Australian woman named Mary Bennett decided to do something. She traveled from Kalgoorlie City in Washington and began a campaign for Aboriginal rights. Australia was a bit like Alabama. There were no signs, so most Australians these days don't recognize how bad it was. Says Jay says, gradually things changed. On January 26, 1938, on the 150th anniversary of the colonization, the Aboriginal leader, William Cooper, led a national day of mourning to protest at the treatment of his people. Eventually, in 1967, after 10 years of campaigning, 90% of Australians voted in the referendum in favor of removing references in the Australian Constitution that discriminated against Aboriginal people. Goodbye.